Good evening, students. Today we'll be talking about fractions and decimals. Our learning target for today is students can convert between decimals and fractions. So I'm going to give you decimals, and you're going to write them as fractions, and I'm going to give you fractions, and you're going to write them as decimals. Okay, so just a basic practice here, a little prerequisite skill before we move on. Okay, make sure you copy that down. If you need more time, go ahead and pause. I will be moving on to the first example. Example 1, writing fractions as decimals. So in our first example, you can see that we have fractions here, and we're going to write them as decimals. In order to write them as decimals, you are going to divide. So to write fractions as decimals, you divide. That is what a fraction stands for. A fraction stands for division. So to do this, you're going to divide. Numerator divided by denominator. Now we're not going to be allowed to use calculators because we need to practice our long division with this. If you had a calculator, it would be very easy. You just do 4 divided by 5, 8 divided by 11, and you're done. But to do long division, remember the 4 is going to go on the inside, and the 5 is going to go on the outside. So when I'm going to do my long division for my first example here, A, 4/5, the 4 goes on the inside, the 5 goes on the outside. You should know that this answer is going to be less than 1 because my fraction is less than 1. So my answer has to be less than 1. If you start doing this and your answer is greater than 1, you should stop and find your mistake that you made. Right? So looking at this, what we're going to do is 5 does not go into 4, so you're going to put a 0 above the 4. Remember, I get a decimal point after that 4, that's going to come to the top, and I'm going to annex a 0 down here and make that 40. Now I'm going to divide, or multiply. How many times does 5 go into 40? The answer to that is 8. So 5 times 8 is 40, and you are done with the remainder. So I am done. When I get a remainder of 0, I am done. So my answer is 0.8. And that's it. For example B, 8 divided by 11. Again, the 8 is going to go on the inside. 11 is going to go on the outside. 11 does not go into 8, so I'm going to put a 0 above that. Put my decimal point up to the top, and put a 0 underneath to make it 80. 11 goes into 80 7 times. That's 77. I subtract. I get a 3. I'm not done, so I add another 0 on the underneath and bring it down. I do not put the 0 on the top, only underneath. Then I see how many times 11 goes into 30, and that is twice. That is 22. I subtract, and I get an 8. Not done, so I put a 0, bring it down. I get 80. 11 goes into 80 7 times. Okay? That is 77. Subtract, I get a 3. Another 0. Bring it down. That's 30. 11 goes into 30 twice. That's 22. Oops. Subtract, I get 8. Okay. Sorry about that. Now I see a pattern here. Yes, there is a pattern. This is what we call a repeating decimal. The first one was terminating. It ended. This is a repeating decimal. So it's going to go on forever, guys. You have to find the pattern. Once you have the pattern, you can stop. The pattern is 7 and 2 is repeating. You figure out the pattern and you write the pattern. 0.72. To show me that it's repeating, we use what we call a repeating bar. Let me put that above the 7 and the 2 because they are both repeating. So this bar above these numbers is telling me that anything below that bar is repeating, and the 7 and 2 is what is repeating. Okay, and that is your answer for 8/11. So 8/11 is 0.72 repeating. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to my next example. Alright, example 2, writing decimals as fractions. So now we have decimals, we're going to write them as fractions. So your place values are going to be very important here. I know a lot of you say that's 0.25, but what is that really? That is 25 hundredths. Remember our place value that we have the tenths and then the hundredths. So this is 25 hundredths, so that means that's going to be 25 over 100. 25 hundredths. Okay, now I look at that and I'm going to try to simplify. And I can see that 25 goes into both of these. I know 25 goes into 100. It's like quarters. 4 quarters go into there. So 25 divided by 5, 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So that's simplifying my fraction in the lowest terms. So I get 1/4. Okay, so if you only have one number, it's going to be tenths and hundredths and thousandths and so on. So my final answer is 1/4. Okay, For B, this is a fraction is going to be a mixed number because I have a whole amount and then I have my fraction amount of 0.7. So I'm going to have a mixed number when I do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of ignore the 4 for now. I'm going to put that as my whole number, 4. Now 7, this is in the tenths place, so that's 7 tenths. So 4 over 7 tenths. Now I look to simplify. No, nothing goes into 7 and 10. It is simplified, so that is my final answer, 4 and 7 tenths. And that is how you write decimals as fractions. If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving on. Alright, I want you to practice these next two on your own. So what I want you to do is pause the video, do these two examples, and when you're done, press play. Okay, you should be back, and hopefully you've got these done already. So I'm going to divide these. The 3 is going to go on the inside, the 8 is going to go on the outside. 8 does not go into 3, so that's 0. That becomes 30. 8 goes into 30 3 times. That is 24. I subtract, I get a 6. Bring down another 0. That is 60. 8 goes into 60 7 times. That is 56. Subtract. I'm not done yet. 4. And there's no pattern yet. I keep going. 40. 8 goes into 40 5 times. That's 40. I'm done because that's 0. So my final answer is 0 and 375 thousandths. That's my final answer. Okay? And then the last one, write as a fraction. So again, I have my whole number 2, so that's going to be 2. And then that's 35. Remember, tenths, hundredths. So that's 35 hundredths. Okay, and then I got to simplify that. 5 goes into both of those. They end in 0 and 5, so I know 5 goes into those. Do not forget your whole number when you're simplifying. It's 2, and then 35 divided by 5 is 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And I cannot do anything else, so I am done. Okay, if you need to go back and watch anything again, do that. Otherwise, have a great night.